on, but I'm going to remind you and request that this is still a court of law. I'm expecting extreme calmness, order, as the court procession goes on, and silence. Those that have their phones on, kindly have them in silent mode or switched off. I do not
If I take you back, one would like to take us of Dr. Kizza Besigye, because we heard yesterday that he was shipped to a certain hospital to get medication. As the lawyer, how is his health status right now? Are you allowed to go and visit him? Are the relatives allowed to go and visit him? How is his health status?
The prisons are in panic. The panic in their voice was very loud. But now they think anything could happen. It tells you the situation. They could not handle him. They contacted family and contacted the legal team and ended up having him. Practically, you know, someone in a wheelchair but still lifted. You can imagine, you are in a wheelchair, but again you are lifted in that wheelchair. So he's emotive. As of yesterday, he was a bit emotive. He was really in a very dire state. And I believe the government also is thinking again about this, and I hope the faster they act to rescue his life, the better.
We heard that Dr. Kizza Besigye went on a hunger strike, and that is what is weakening him more, though he may be having some issues according to his health. But we hear that he has been on hunger strike for, is it like 2 weeks right now? That is what is weakening him.
Yes.
What can you say?
Yeah, from the first day that I met retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, he said he's going to defy, for him he said he will defy the president's intention of unlawfully detaining him. So one of the means of protesting and sending a message is what he has said, that even if it means giving his life, he has said that not once, not twice, that he is willing to sacrifice. Because it's not about him. The hunger strike is not about retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. He is making a statement against all those people who not have a voice, who not even have the space to express what is expressing. So the hunger strike is about all those who are illegally detained. Because you will not release Dr. Kizza Besigye and leave the others in prison who are released and who ought to benefit from the decision. So his defiance against that court was not personal. It was not him alone. So anyone who thinks it's about Dr. Kizza Besigye then has not understood what Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is saying as a human rights activist and a political leader.
If you talk of the charges, if I take you back, if you talk of the charges, the decision of the Supreme Court, some people have the view that according to the Supreme Court decision, these files were not supposed to be transferred, as others allege. They were saying that they were not supposed, the people who are pending charges in the court martial, their files were supposed to be transferred. According to the decision, that is what they say. And others are saying, to you as lawyers of Dr. Kizza Besigye, you are saying that this was supposed to be released. What is in between there? One would like to understand. What was the decision, the gist of the decision?
The Supreme Court, I want to look at the orders. The Supreme Court was interpreting the law. It was not a trial court. That's where people get a problem. That the Supreme Court was not the court under which these people are tried. Would not give orders of release. That's why it did not give those orders. That's what people expected, that the Supreme Court would have said these people be released immediately. It said the decision handed down will operate, it takes immediate effect. That is what the court said. And what was that decision? That anything about that court, to be very precise, was wrong. void ab initio. It means from the instant it never, when the law was made, because we're challenging the UPDF Act, it should never have been. That is what court said. That is why it discussed whether the decision acts retrospectively, that even those, the first person who was charged under that law, it was a wrong thing to do. That is what the Supreme Court said. So, what then? You cannot put something on nothing. You cannot have a tree, you cannot say the tree will have leaves without roots. The moment the roots are cut, then you cannot ask for leaves. So you cannot have something out of nothing. You cannot have a file out of a non-existent court. You cannot have a file out of a non-existent investigation which has been nullified. The bits and pieces which the Supreme Court talked about are those for the DPP to look at and formulate an opinion on whether actually there can be a matter which can be not transferred, a matter which can be taken to civilian courts instead of having been taken to the military courts. When a charge is terminated or dismissed or withdrawn in criminal matters, it does not mean it cannot be reinstated. So simply the Supreme Court was saying if there's anything that can be a criminal element or that can be sustained as a crime or a charge, the DPP should look into it. And probably if a person has been released, the DPP takes up that charge afresh, investigate it, but put it in perspective again. The DPP will not reconstruct a crime scene. The DPP will not reconstruct evidence. So it is as good as dead.
What you want to say that if a case is in court, it has to follow, do you say chronological order, how it's supposed to move from the scene of crime up to?
From day one. That's what we call probably a chain of evidence. Yes. The moment that chain is interfered with, the moment the chain is broken, the moment the evidence is contaminated, that is because it's proof beyond reasonable doubt. There cannot be any doubt about the evidence. But now it has been touched by different people. You cannot go back and reconstruct these scenes. You cannot like place these people in that position because it has to be an independent investigation by police. At law, the DPP cannot rely on an investigation that was made by the military or CMI, by military intelligence. The DPP cannot rely on it. It is very clear. It is unconstitutional. If that's to be the case, if that is what they are thinking about, we are going to challenge it. The DPP, it is about police doing an investigation. First, there is a report of a crime to police. There was never a report to police in any of these matters. Upon a report being made, then police takes over investigations. After investigations, police sends the matter to the DPP to ascertain on whether a charge can be sustained out of the evidence as collected. Then the DPP determines on whether it cannot or it deserves further investigations into the matter before charge is drawn. So this is a process. So the clock cannot, it does not work anti-clockwise. The clock will not go back. It is not a fiction. Actually, what they are talking about would be a fiction. It would be like a movie. It would be like these investigative movies that we see or series that you would take back. Retired Colonel Dr. Besigye. Yeah? So are you going to rearrest? Because even the arrest itself, police has to participate. That if the military has arrested someone, they will hand over to police to take over. He has never been placed into the hands of police to take a statement or a charge and caution statement, because that is where it starts. So you want him to go back to police, then make a statement, you reconstruct the same person in a hotel in Nairobi, the same person in Greece, then a person with a gun. You know, it is quite complicated. It will be something new in our jurisprudence. That it will be the very first of cases in the Commonwealth jurisdiction that you can have a charge reconstructed, and that is what the DPP would be doing.
Council, can I say that is it a demand to the government, or it is a request? It is an order from you, the legal team, for these people, for Dr. Kizza Besigye and even other people. Is it a request that you want to tell the government that could you please release these people? Is it a demand? Is it an order? We
are going back 40 years ago, actually more than 40 years ago. This government, this regime came, and one of the pillars was to fight for the return to the rule of law. We are simply telling government, please go by the rule of law. If you want to go back to parliament and try to circumvent, it will be ruled by law. It will not be a rule of law. So it is as simple as that. There's nothing very complicated about this. It's whether the government is still willing to be seen as that government which fought for the rule of law. Simple.
Dr.